Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola. Another beautiful morning here in the city of Lagos. It is the 23rd day in the month of June 2024. Excited for all that is to come for the rest of the year. But then one step at a time, I believe. Still a number of issues on our tables that we have to consistently address. Top of that list, of course, happens to be the planned protest that is happening on the 1st of August, all of which the government have been trying to abate, trying to have conversations with the organizers of said protest, who for now, no particular group have taken account or taken responsibility for the planned protest. It's been a lot of reactions from the presidency, and the plan actually is to make sure that this protest does not happen. As a matter of fact, Mr. Bayo Ononuga has called these protests, or the foundation of the protest, something of high treason, because attempting to overthrow a government is considered treason according to the law of the land. That's just one of the many issues that we're having to grapple with at this time. I will provide you with more information as we continue with conversations here on radio. This is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola. Once again, you're listening to Trends in the Papers. What we do basically is analyze the top stories on the front pages of our dailies. Aside from analyzing these stories, we of course try to give you some sort of foundation, some sort of backstory, so you're able to reconcile the developments that are being reported. Fᴜʟʟᴏᴜ joins me virtually as we proceed into the conversation to review the papers. And don't forget that we are on social media, so join us on Facebook and YouTube as well. We're streaming the program live at Mainland 98.3 FM, and make use of the live chat option for your submissions as we go along in the conversation. Fouad, good morning to you. Another day to discuss national issues. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good morning, Sage. I'm good. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm very well. Thank you, Fouad. I just needed to open the program and highlight this August 1st protest and the many hashtags that have been flying around. Mr. Bayo Ononuga calls it high treason because seeking to overthrow an administration is truly considered treason according to the law. But then we have other bodies like the NLC, for example, who say you cannot in any manner or form or shape prevent people from exercising their fundamental human rights, which is the right to protest. And then we have other organizations, other members of government who are telling their people that they should not participate in this particular protest because the consequences would far outweigh whatever benefit they think will come out of the protest. I think that's one of the primary issues that is really unsettling for a lot of people at this time. Would you comment very briefly before we start looking at the papers?
Well, you know what, Sage? Again, it's surprising to see that people that had participated in different forms of protest, it's a well-known protest, national rocking protest. When I say rocking, protests that rock the nation. Even during the dark days of the military government, are the ones now condemning any form of protest. People that call themselves progressives, people that refer to themselves as activists, people that were well known to also carry out some even far more, destructive kind of protest, when it comes to government responses and what have you to issues, are the ones who now think that, look, protest is treason, because whatever protest does, it is about removing a government. For Mr. Bayo Ononuga again, as an individual, we decide, what we want to be known for. What we've known of him is different from what we now know or what he has suddenly become. And I think a lot of our senior colleagues, even in the field of journalism, are now taken aback. Some of them are surprised as to how suddenly people can change. I think his reality has changed. So he naturally just adjusted to his current reality, which means when you are now in the seat of when you are now in the corridors of power, your thinking changes, your orientation changes, who you are suddenly changes. And I think, like people have always said, you don't know a person until they suddenly have power, money, and I think they always ask the last one, which is a woman. I don't know whether women have that influence.
Don't add us to this conversation.
I'm just saying.
No add us to this conversation.
But when human beings have access to money and power, you know who they really are, and I think that's what is happening now. But for those that are saying that they still want to go out and protest, I think protest in itself is enshrined in the Constitution. It's a fundamental right of any citizen in a democracy. The right to be heard, But I think it has to be peaceful. Really, that's just the major issue here. People can go out, protest peacefully, have processions, have rallies, but I think the concern for most Nigerians, or for many Nigerians at this time, is what will become of the protest. Hope it will not be hijacked, hope it will not turn violent, like we saw during the EndSARS protest. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we'll wait to see how all of this ends. This threat of protest. Again, nobody has come out really to own up to being, the ones organizing this protest. It's just been, trending on social media.
Yeah.
And I think the fear from the part of government is because of what has just happened in Kenya, or what is still happening in Kenya, because it's not completely over in Kenya as we speak. It's gone down a bit, but the protest is still ongoing, not totally over. In Uganda, the citizens of that country are also staging some forms of protest too, and some other African countries too. But I think at the end of the day, the government should not bother, with this threat of protest. I think what they should begin to concern themselves with is how to address what the people are saying when it comes to hardship and hunger in the land. If you understand what I'm saying, I think that's the most important thing. Really, people have a right to protest. There's this video trending online page where President Bola met Tinubu, I think during the Jonathan era regime, was also out there encouraging people to go out and protest against the government. So I don't know why protest has always become something to demonize, and then you go to the extent of saying it's high treason. I don't know what's treasonable about a protest, especially when it comes to addressing the concerns of the people.
Maybe the volatility of the country at this time is what they're considering. But then again, we just thought to
the country has always been volatile.
Well, there's levels.
Yes, high volatility.
There's levels to it now.
So protest now is high treason.
I'm not agreeing with anyone's statement. I'm not disagreeing with anybody's statement whatsoever. I'm just saying we can understand that the country is very volatile at this time. Tensions are high. There's a possibility of a hijack. People are very, very upset. So, I mean, if it were up to any government, they would rather that people not protest. But how they handle the situation at the end of the day is what is really going to be a testament to the ability to govern the people. But then again, away from that conversation, we just thought to start like that because that happens to be one of the most talked about situation in the country at this time. Well, speaking of issues within the country, we're looking at the Punch newspaper as we proceed into conversations for trends in the papers this morning. You are still listening to Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Do well to join us on our streaming platform, Facebook and YouTube. We're streaming live at Mainland 98.3 FM. Like I said, we're looking at the Punch newspaper. The top story here: fuel crisis. Marketers project 700 billion naira monthly subsidy. The riders. NNPC mum as dealers insist government still paying subsidy. Reps probe crude shortage. Dangote eyes foreign market for refinery product. Federal government meets Kyari Dangote over dispute. That's the story and the rider. Now over to the body in itself. With a landing cost of 1,117 naira per litre for premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, the monthly subsidy on the commodity has increased to about 707 billion, oil marketers have projected on Monday. It was also gathered that as the Dangote Petroleum Refinery begins petrol production in August, the company might export the product following the crude oil supply crisis and other regulatory challenges confronting the $20 billion firm. This came as the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Heineke Lokpobiri, met with officials of Dangote Refinery, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. And this meeting bordered on the recent concern between Dangote Refinery and oil sector regulators and operators. So it's many things going on within the oil sector. First, the tussle with Aliko Dangote and all the stakeholders in the oil sector, the lack of crude supply to Dangote. PMS was supposed to be distributed from the Dangote refinery in August. But as it stands right now, and all of the many hurdles that he has had to surmount with regards to getting crude, chances are he's going to export his product. His products will not necessarily be available for domestic use, according to this report, because obviously he would consider it more profitable to export his product rather than make it available for domestic use. And then there's also the conversation, once again, about the fact that the federal government is still paying subsidy. And the cumulative sum of the subsidy that would now be paid, especially with the landing cost of petrol being 1,117 naira, would be about 700 billion naira monthly if the consumption figure that has been made available, about 44 million liters per day, is still the same. So that is the summary of what we're dealing with at this time, Fuad.
Well, I think a very good story from the Punch newspaper. Very easy to read. The figures are well spelled out, so easy for anybody to calculate.
Yes.
I think there are about three issues that this particular story has highlighted. The first one is to give us a very reasonable and easy pathway to calculating whether we are still paying subsidy or not. I think the last time out, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, the former governor of Kaduna State, put it at 1 trillion naira every month on subsidy payment. And what he said is that in the last 8 months, he's done about 8 trillion naira. Now, the Punch report has put his own calculation at over 700 billion naira every month. And they did the calculation basically using the landing cost figure that has been provided by experts in the industry, especially the major marketers who have put the landing cost currently for PMS particularly at 1,115 naira per liter, right?
Yes.
And so basically what this report is saying, again, I'm talking about a very easy, reasonable calculation for anybody to really dig into, is that, look, if currently the NNPC filling stations are still selling at 585 naira per liter, right? And then, of course, you look at what the independent marketers are saying. Who, like, if you go into some of these independent marketers' filling stations, you buy probably at 650, 655, 700 naira maximum, at least in the urban areas. That's a figure we can work with. So what this report is saying, okay, is that what this report is saying is that we can do our calculation. It means that margin, because if the landing cost is 1,115 naira and we're still buying at between 585 to 700 naira, we have a shortfall of about 500 naira, right? Somewhere.
Yes. That
somebody's adding to whatever we are buying per liter at the pump. So if you do a calculation of daily consumption as the official figure of about 40 million liters per day, you know, before subsidy is gone, it was put at around 60 million liters. Later it dropped to around 50 million liters. And as it is now, I think the official figure is saying we are doing about 40 million liters per day.
44.3.
Just 44.3 million liters per day. So if you do a calculation of 500 naira, let's just 500 naira per liter, as the additional, you call it whatever name you want to call it, whether it's intervention, subsidy, cost recovery, or anything, just put any name on it. There's an over 500 naira somewhere that is being added to whatever we are paying for PMS per liter at this time. And if you put that to 44.1 million liters, it automatically means that on a monthly basis, say, we are doing something well over 700 billion naira as subsidy payment. I call it subsidy. Let the listeners call it whatever they want to call it. You have called it under recovery, right? Or intervention. Which one do you want to say?
I don't know why you. What do you want me to say?
I'm just saying. I've used subsidy. Anybody can call it anything. But you know the sad part of this, the most terrible part of this story, what makes it more worrying for people like myself, is that, look, no matter how ridiculous you may think the subsidy payment regime was, the era where we're paying subsidy was filled with corruption, I'm also seeing some of these megalomaniacs of government saying that, we should celebrate Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president, for bringing down daily consumption of PMS to 44 point something million liters per day. Initially we used to do about 60 million liters. Say, people are no longer even taking their vehicles out again. That's that. People are not. The businesses are being stifled. Look, I have a friend who has a boss, somebody at the level of the directorship in the civil service, who only brings his car out once in a week now. The man is forced at his level to use commercial bus to the office. You don't understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the reason why most likely daily consumption has dropped is not because the government has done anything spectacular to create some level of transparency in their daily consumption.
People can't afford
the
it.
reality is just that people cannot afford it. So businesses have been stifled. People have had to use alternative means of transporting themselves. They can't even fuel their cars again. And the implication of that is that businesses are dying. Whereas there are some other people celebrating that as an achievement. You can see how ridiculous this thinking can be sometimes. Because the reality is that look, people are not able to move around again. The hustling and bustling you see of the city no longer exists in reality, if you understand what I mean. Say. So this is where we are now. We are in an era where practically all the facts on ground shows that government is paying subsidy again on petroleum products. That's what the fact on ground is showing. But we have a situation where nobody is held accountable. There's no transparency. There's no accountability. We don't even know what's going on. And that's why I say it's more troubling than even the era where subsidy was an official thing, where subsidy was appropriated for in our budget. Now, there are no appropriations. You can't even hold anybody accountable. Nobody knows. It's so run. It's so opaque. The running of our oil sector is so opaque, fraught with corruption, lack of transparency. Nobody knows anything. And it's even more terrible because they don't even want you to ask questions. They come with some manner of arrogance, recklessness. The statements they make are sorted with lies and falsehood. You don't even know what to say. Some of us, I was practically shocked when they told us that, look, you guys don't have 20%, so you only have 7.2% in like $20 billion refinery. And the figure we'll be working with was that, look, they put $2.7 billion in that refinery to buy Nigeria's 20% stake. Whereas they were only able to do $1 billion, the other $1.7 billion part of the deal, they could not meet up with it. That is the situation of the country when it comes to the oil sector in Nigeria. Too many lies, inconsistencies, policy somersault, corruption, bureaucracy, red tapeism, all the negative things that can kill business is entrenched in our oil sector as we see it now.
Fuad, there's another issue here as well. There's been claims that the oil market has been liberalized, a claim that was questioned when sometime last year the NNPC put out a price template for a deregulated market. A lot of people could not harmonize that concept. How do you put out a price template for a liberalized market? And now we have that particular subject matter raised once again. It's here in the report that how is it that you claim that the market has been liberalized, but somehow the NNPC still remains the sole importer of PMS? By now, we should have more people importing the product to engender competition, to engender supply, amongst many other things. So truly, is the market liberalized is the question that's being asked in this report here.
Well, again, we talked about it there. That's why a lot of Nigerians keep questioning, the sincerity of purpose, the truthfulness that comes with the statements made by Mele Kyari a lot of times. Mr. Mele Kyari, for me, is now known to make statements that you don't take seriously because nothing happens at the end of the day. He keeps making promises. He makes statements that you can't even hold on to. The recent one was Aluko. I don't have information, but I'm telling you that by August, the final reward, but don't quote me.
Let it go, please.
It can't go now because we're waiting for August. How many days to August now?
A few days. Don't worry.
So
I believe you.
I will not let it go. We will have to, when we get to August, we'll talk about it again. But he said we should not quote it, but I will quote it because he should be the man to know if it will work or not. But when this whole thing about subsidy is done came, the first thing he told Nigerians was that, we are now liberalizing the market. The market forces will now determine the price of petroleum products. We've issued out licenses. A lot of those license owners cannot even activate their license because they don't have access to forest. So we are left with a form of monopoly, which automatically means that, look, when it comes to importation of petroleum products into the country, it is still a monopoly from the NNPCL. Although most of these importations are done by their agents, their contractors and what have you. but everything still comes back to the capacity of the NNPCL to access forex to be able to bring in petroleum products into the country. So I ask again, like you've just asked me now, where are the market forces? Where is the liberalization of the market now as we speak? Because they will tell you, it's the reason why we have staggered figures at the downstream sector, at the pump price of petroleum products in Nigeria is that, look, why the NNPCL is the sole importer using different agents and contractors. What they do is that, look, at the ex-depot price, marketers now have to buy from the secondary and tertiary market. Yeah. That's why we have varying prices, not necessarily because the market has been liberalized. You understand? So there's really no market forces. The forces we have are the forces of monopoly created by this cabal we have been talking about. We are benefiting from this importation. The depot owners, who at the end of the day, you have the big monster that brings it down to the smaller monsters and then trickles it down to the smaller masquerade. So that's what you have, the opaqueness we are talking about. So basically you have the NNPCL. Let me tell you, say, that's margin from what NNPCL is selling, because most NNPC filling stations now, you probably will buy at 585 naira per liter. For the major marketers, you probably will buy at maybe 600, 650, 650. For the smaller marketers, are close to 700 naira. If you pay attention to these figures, you know that there are people who are making brisk business from this thing. From those little margins you are saying, put these margins at maybe 20 million, 30 million liters per day. Because most of the filling stations are owned by the independent marketers who have to go through this bureaucracy of 1 or 2 levels of the market to be able to have access to the product. So people are making money from Nigeria. Cheap money. So again, that is why there are people who are hell-bent on ensuring that the status quo remains when it comes to importation of petroleum products. They feed fast on the nation. They are making easy money. So long we continue to import. Who are the depot owners? Who are these contractors helping NNPCL to bring in petroleum products? Who are the cabals in the distribution channel? The value chain from when it comes into the country to where it lands, where it is kept, where it is being moved around. There are people feeding fat on the status quo, and they are desperate to ensure the status quo remains. Unfortunately, at the detriment of Nigeria.
Well, it might continue to be so, because the last resort, or what we thought to be the last resort when it comes to granting respite to the people with the pump price, well, the Dangote refinery, it turns out that when he begins PMS distribution in August, we might not be beneficiaries, because he intends to export his products according to this report.
Where is the entitlement mentality coming from?
I mean, we expect it because we were told by the government.
That's what I'm asking. Where is the entitlement mentality?
That's what we were told. That's what the government told us.
But the man has told you that there's no crude anywhere. The one he even got, the 6 point something barrels of crude oil he got for almost 6 months, he has to pay premium price. He has to pay more, about $6 extra, to get the little they gave to him. So where is the entitlement mentality coming from? You said you wanted to do 20% stake. You could not even meet the part of the bargain to get 20%. You have only 7.2%. The man has been going to different parts of the world to get crude oil that we are supposed to produce locally. And then he will now refine his petrol and give it to you. Why? Because of what? His Father Christmas. That's why he saw that his diesel, about 98% of what he was able to produce in diesel, he sold it to Europe and other parts of the world. Yeah. The same diesel is sold to Europe and other parts of the world. And according to that refinery, they are still demanding for more. Is the one that our own regulators are saying is bad and inferior to the one they are bringing into the country. The same regulator that supervises the importation of bad fuel into the country without consequences. So the man is going to be looking at his cost of production. So most likely he would have to export the product. He said he's been taking it to Europe and offshore and Tʀᴇɪᴅs for people who are interested to come and buy. So we can't be entitled to whatever he produces for now. Wow. Since our own people are hell-bent on ensuring that, look, as an oil-producing nation, will continue to import refined products. See, it's so sad, let me tell you. Saudi Arabia is the biggest player in the oil sector, whether we like it or not. You know, and do you know that, look, Saudi Arabia is so self-sufficient when it comes to refined petroleum products. I'm not talking about crude oil now. To the extent that, look, they have refineries that refine petroleum products for export only in their country. You know, as we speak, they have about 12 functional refineries run by state-owned Aramco, which is supposed to be like our own version of the NNPCL. That's why today one of the most viable organizations, businesses in the world is Aramco, a state-owned, run petroleum company in Saudi Arabia. So they've somewhat developed their system to the point where, look, they have refineries that refine petroleum products only for domestic use, whereas they are also refineries for refined products for exportation. So they are not only making money from exportation of crude oil, they are also making money from exportation of refined petroleum products, whereas they also have refineries to refine products for domestic consumption. When our founding fathers built those 4 refineries, 2 in Port Harcourt, 1 in Warri, 1 in Kaduna, the intention was for us to refine majorly for local consumption. So no matter the amount of crude oil we produce daily, we were supposed to reserve that 445,000 barrels of crude oil for those 4 refineries to refine for local consumption. So that all of these problem of crude oil prices, blah, 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 dollar, will be taken away from the burden of Nigerians. We've finished those refineries. We are getting different timelines. The man that struggled to build another one, the biggest in Africa, we're about to frustrate him and run it aground. That is the story of Nigeria.
Well, Fuad, Heineken Lokpobere has decided to meet with Dangote and all the other stakeholders. Hopefully, we get information regarding the outcome of that meeting, and hopefully Dangote reconsiders and makes a product available for us here in Nigeria. Hopefully. You can get more information on that story on page 2 of the Punch newspaper.
I saw the picture just a minute before we saw Heineken Lokpobere.
Yeah.
Mele Kyari was there. I think the man Farouk Ahmed was also there.
Yeah.
A few other officials of government, and then Mr. Dangote was also there. But if you look at the picture, I'm sure that was one meeting Alhaji Dangote would not have wanted to have in the first place. Because from the picture, if you look at the optics, he looks a defeated man. I'm sure that what they will be showing him now will be excuses, reasons why they probably will not be able to supply. No, we are not after you. We are not against your refinery. You can look at the figures. Oh, we have all of these forward sale agreements that we need to meet up with. When you begin to give a businessman different excuses why his project may fail, I'm sure that's what they will be telling him. Oh, the IOCs are not producing enough. We've issued new licenses now. We are hoping that we'll be able to produce more so that we can reserve more for you. Let's just manage through the period for now. No, we are not against you. But in the bottom of their belly, they know what they are doing. In the bottom of their belly, that belly that we cannot open up to see, they know that, look, their intention is to let the status quo remain, to continue to feed fat on the nation at the detriment of ordinary Nigerians. May God help us.
May God help us. Let's wait for the outcome of the meeting and see what the official statement
I say it's my prediction.
I get you.
If there's any other thing that happens, hold me responsible for what I've just put. I'm telling you that is what they'll be telling you.
Okay. Well, that story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. You forgive us for spending time on that story. It's quite important. To be honest, it's the most important story across the papers. So we had to spend time talking about all of the many reports that constituted the entire story, which is why we spent a lot of time on it. But that's all the information or a summary of all the information. You can get more details if you would like to on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Fuad, let's have a conversation about the MPC meeting and the predictions of what the outcome of that meeting will probably be. The headline on the front page, Fuad, don't worry, don't even worry, don't bother. The headline in itself: inflation, OPS opposes fresh interest rate hike, as MPC meets today. Now, the organized private sector on Monday has warned against a hike in interest rate as the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee continues its meeting in Abuja today. This is the 4th MPC meeting of 2024, and at the end of every meeting before now, the committee has increased the benchmark interest rate in a bid to tame the rise in inflation. The last increase was in May, when the monetary policy rate was hiked to 26.25% from 24.75%. Fuad, the private sector are complaining bitterly about the outcome of the MPC meeting always being an increase in the benchmark monetary policy, the interest rate. It currently is about 26.25% at this time. And we have a lot of economics and experts saying that we need to first understand the kind of inflation that is happening in the country. The methods that we're employing is something that typically you would use for a demand pull inflation. In a case where there's scarcity of products and there's too much money, but there's no product. Exactly. That's when you use this kind of technique. But our current problem is a cost push inflation, meaning products are available, people just do not have the money.
They don't have the money
to buy the product. So you're using textbook economics for a situation that we can understand. So it's not like their methods are not something that we resonate with. It's just not the appropriate prescription for the kind of inflation. Exactly. So that's the problem. So the private sector are saying, please, if you can, try not to increase the benchmark interest rate after this year.
They will increase it again.
But why?
They will not listen.
Why are you like this?
I'm not saying now. At least, maybe not be as high as maybe about 200 basis points. I'm sure they will do about 100 basis points this time. They have to do it because, again, whether textbook or not, that's just some reality again to begin to stem the tide a bit. But again, we've been able to break it down. I have told a number of people that you don't need to be a businessman to understand that these guys are on the wrong tangent. They are not bending the curve the way they should. And so what you have is a zigzag of policies, inconsistency here and there. Sage, like you have highlighted, what we have is not really a demand problem. It's not the inflation is coming as a result of too much demand. It's because, again, look, the products are available. There's no money to buy. And I think it was Alhaji Aliko Dangote, who also recently said that, look, there's no way you are going to help businesses grow with a 30% interest rate. Because, again, if the CBN is about 226.4 as we speak now, the commercial banks definitely will be running at about 30% plus on interest rate, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
And no businesses can survive. That's why the manufacturers are shouting. That's why they are saying that, look, please, you are using the wrong prescription, really, for a problem. Because if you remember, I think it was Alhaji Aliko Dangote that said that, look, this idea of increasing interest rate to tackle inflation is only when you have too much money chasing fewer goods.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And even gave some historical perspective to the problem. He traced it back to the COVID era. That when COVID started, because of the so many interventions that was done in the Western world and by this other country, you had a situation where there was too much money available in the hands of people. They were giving out money as intervention, just doling out money. And then at that time, production was low because factories were running at half capacity and what have you. The farmers could not really go to farm as they should. So you had a situation where there was too much cash in the hands of the people and fewer goods available to buy. So, but that was created as a result of the COVID-19 intervention. You remember, the monies were so available in the Western world, America and the rest. So the extent that even our own local internet fraudsters benefited from it. Yes. You know the benefit for it now.
The benefit.
Maybe you know some of them then.
I don't know anybody.
so that was a situation that necessitated this prescription we are now using for a different problem. Look, let's begin to reduce the monies in circulation, what have you, and then of course interest rate was going to be a proper prescription. But our own problem is not, because during COVID, why those nations were supporting their own people with all manner of support, interventions, monies, and what have you. The donations we got.
We were housed it.
We were housed it until people broke into the warehouses themselves. It became a political tool. It was only for the politicians, and then it was warehouse and what have you. So what we are saying is that, look, our own is coming from, again, some of the policies of the government. Whether you like it or not, the subsidy is gone policy of the government without thinking it through, without understanding the implications and planning properly for it, is the reason why we have this problem. While you are still dealing with that, you floated the naira, the dollars moved from 750 to 1,005, 1,006. At the point, it was hitting 1,009. Look, importers are saying that, look, for you to clear a 40-feet container before at the port, you probably will be in about 2.53 million naira to clear one 40-feet container. Today, you have to do about 14-15 million naira to clear the same container. Added to that is the fact that farmers cannot go to farm. And the few farmers who are able to go to farm, to even move their products around has become too expensive. Energy cost has gone up. Electricity tariff has gone up. Those are the things we should address when we are so. And I told Sandra yesterday, the CBN can continue to tinker with our monetary policy. The major issue to tackle the inflation in the country is not even in the hands of the CBN. There are more fiscal policies which are supposed to be addressed in government policy, which we are not doing. We are now sharing rights. We are sharing 20. Where are the rights now? Have you seen any rights?
I'm not. How do I know if I'm on the social register?
Now, you know you have friends. Some of the politicians are your friends now, and maybe they've got one half bag of rice now.
Why do you want me to be in prison?
So it is what it is, really, you know. But again, we'll continue to say these things. We are hoping that they will hear us and begin to be. That's why when you see people like Mr. Bayo Ononuga, who just wants to dismiss everybody, who thinks everybody is sick. Look, say there was this argument recently that I think 𝛾ᴜ came up with, and I think even the NLC has always made that argument. We also say that, look, whether you like it or even the 70,000 minimum wage cannot buy a bag of rice. And you know what some of these supporters kept saying on social media? Oh, must you use your 70,000 to buy a bag of rice? And blah blah blah. And I said, look, you see, it's just clear perception and logical thinking. It is the same argument you hear from them when they will tell you, oh, must you even eat rice? Now, if your minimum wage cannot buy rice, why can't you just eat gari? In fact, they will tell you that must you even eat rice. Remember that one of us, I think it was by Sarkozy, that posted on the social media handle what it cost him to buy 5 tubers of yam. The yam you used to buy maybe like 1.5 per tuber. You have to buy 5. Very small yams like this, rondo like. And then some people started commenting and saying, must you buy yam? Must you even eat yam? And that is the same argument they will now give to you when we say farmers cannot go to farm. They are now telling us everybody should be a farmer. Just farm something at your backyard. You can see the infantile, ridiculous thinking from these people. Oh, everybody should go and farm. Because before, when there was food sufficiency in Nigeria, we were all farmers. But everybody now has to go and farm. Everybody has to have a garden. And that's the solution to the problem. Whereas the real issues are there, they are not addressing it. They want to continue to take shadows and then blame Nigerians for every problem. Whereas they are the problem.
Well, let's move on to other stories. This is Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Thank you to all of you who are currently on our live stream. You can start dropping your submissions actually using the live chat option. When we start taking contributions, I would first clear the backlog of messages we get. So go on ahead and start dropping your submission. We're on Facebook and on YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. We're analyzing the papers. We're still looking at the Punch newspaper. My name is Sage Babalola, and I'm still here talking with Fᴜဃᴜ. That particular story on the organized private sector and the opposition to the possibility of an increase in the interest rate following the MPC meeting that will continue today in Abuja. You can get info on page 23 of the Punch newspaper. Fouad, at this time, windfall tax is still talking about the private sector or business owners in the country. The federal government is insisting on sanction for defaulting bank chiefs, proposes 10% penalty on withheld levy. Sometime last week, we heard about the windfall tax, which is a tax that is imposed on organizations that benefit a lot from government policy. If you benefit from government policy more than you usually would profit, maybe at the end of your financial year or however you calculate your profit, you are supposed to pay a tax on it, and it's pegged at 50% of said profit. And as it stands, it would seem like 50%. There's some sort of opposition from banks, for example, and now the federal government has said that bank executive or bank chiefs that refuse to pay this windfall tax, they would be sanctioned. And following the sanction, or some of the things that would constitute that sanction, is a penalty of 10% of the levy that was withheld or not remitted annually. So you pay the tax, and then additional punishment, you now pay 10% of that particular levy that you refused to pay. In fact, the Punch says windfall tax, federal government to jail defaulting bank executive. So chances are you will go to prison.
Let them jail them, they want to. Because again, for me, what comes to mind is that, look, what are these government policies that have made these banks benefit so much to the point where it becomes mandatory for them to pass away with about 50% of that windfall? You understand? And if you critically look at some of these policies, most likely these are some of these anti-people policies we've been talking about that, of course, positions the bank to be able to make that kind of profit. You understand? You know, we can't continue to run a bourgeoisie-led economy. You know, we can't continue to run an economy structured only, for the elitist class, the elites in the society, only for the bank chiefs. You know, we've asked questions severally, say that, look, everybody is complaining about a very bad economy. But look at our bank executives.
Even the telecom sector, I suspect them.
You don't understand. See, the bank executives are declaring profit upon profit. In fact, the bank executives are buying private jets, living luxurious lifestyle, by building universities. You understand what I'm saying? The reality of the bank executives does not even show the reality of the economy. Because some would think that, look, in a struggling economy, it should also be reflective of your financial institutions, majorly the bank. So what are they doing that has made them immune completely or safe from the reality of Nigerians when we come to a poor economy? That was why Chief Bodejo recently was asking questions about our bank executives. That where are their factories? Is it only banking they are doing, or they are doing something else that we don't know? But whatever it is, I don't want to use the word that comes to mind now. It's almost like later. If they must take their money from them for making a lot of money, but my own thing is that, look, even if the government now takes this money from the bank, what becomes of it? How does that affect the ordinary man on the street? You understand what I'm saying?
Infrastructural developments. That's what they intend to use these monies for.
Wait,
I'm just telling you what.
Infrastructure. If you are building road, you are building road that we have always said. The road never ends. We keep building roads, whereas the people get poorer by the day. Every day we fly very terrible roads across the country, and every time a government tells you we are building roads, but you travel across the country, bad roads everywhere. Within the cities, terrible roads everywhere. In your streets, terrible roads everywhere. Whereas the country makes billions of naira, we keep sharing monies at different levels of government, and they tell you we are building roads, but where are the roads?
What? This particular story is on page 23. Hopefully the bank executive paid the windfall tax and it's actually used for national development. It's on page 23. And speaking on infrastructural development, World Bank, AFDB to invest $7.5 billion in Nigeria power sector is still on page 23. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has said that the World Bank and the Africa Development Bank have concluded plans to invest $30 billion in boosting electricity in Africa. Now, of this $30 billion, at the sum of $7.5 billion would be committed to Nigeria. We'll get about 25%. That's $7.5 billion. He disclosed this during a visit to Splendor Electric Nigeria Limited, a porcelain insulator company located at Odogbolu area of Ogun State. They go on and on and on and on. Well, basically, Fuad, we will get investment. Is not a grant, is not charity, is an investment. So obviously, they'll get a return on the investment. But this is a good thing, right? $7.5 billion to aid electricity production in the country.
We always said it. Yeah, we always said it that we need a lot of investment. The entire value chain of the electricity sector needs massive investment, from generation to the transmission to even distribution. The value chain is obsolete. It lacks investment. Some of the equipment have been installed as far back as 1960-something. We're still using some of those old, obsolete equipment. We are not able to generate enough, even though the little we generate, the transmission cannot carry. They put it on it, it collapses. You understand what I'm saying? Distribution ends up very problematic. We are not able to invest enough. So whatever monies we are able to put into the value chain, in terms of investment, makes a whole lot of sense. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a very good one. But the devil is in the details. It would be nice to get more information and details as to how the investment will work at the end of the day.
Right. Page 23 is where you find that particular story. Let's talk a little bit of politics and what's going on in Edo State. The Court of Appeal upholds Ighodalo's candidacy, fines Shaibu 1 million naira. Now, the Court of Appeal in Abuja on Monday has upheld the emergence of Asue Ighodalo as the candidate of the People's Democratic Party for the September 21 governorship election in Edo State. The appellate court, in a lead judgment by Justice A. Lamido, has dismissed the suit filed by the reinstated Edo State Deputy Governor Philip Ashaibu, and also they awarded 1 million against him in favor of Ighodalo. So that's a summary of what's going on at this time. Fuad, do you want to say something?
Respite for the PDP in Edo State.
I know.
But again, I know this will get to the Supreme Court. I don't know whether this is the same case that delegates. There's also another case like the delegates who are challenging the primary.
Yeah, they were exempted from participating.
This is Shaibu. I don't know what will become of the case of the delegates. They have won at the Federal High Court. Their case is also being appealed by the PDP. I just think that the PDP should be careful Because really, when it comes to things like this, you have to look at what has happened in the past. You don't want to have too many cases hanging around your party and your candidate this close to election, because who knows, the Supreme Court will still probably give verdicts on some of these things, and it could go either way. But I think good one for the PDP and Mr. Aswe Ighodalo, the candidate of the
right.
in Edo State. I think it's September 21, the election.
Yes,
very close to us now.
Well, that's on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. I'll read the rest of the headlines for us. We have hunger protest. NLC warns against clampdown. We spoke about that at the start of the program. Here, immigration officer, 3 others arraigned for drug trafficking. Wow. It's on page 5 of the Punch newspaper. We have mastermind of Abuja general's murder nabbed in Kano. Also on page 5 of the Punch newspaper. And on page 23, Nigeria records $1 billion international transfer inflows in 3 months. That's about all of the report on the front page of the Punch newspaper. For the Guardian, all of the stories have also been highlighted, thankfully. The top story here, though, over 30,000 jobs lost to closure of manufacturing firms in 4 years. Fouad, we're talking about mass retrenchment because manufacturing companies are closing down, multinationals are leaving the country, and over the last 4 years, at least 30,000 people have been sent back into the unemployment market. Very, very unfortunate. It's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper if you'd like to read that. Page 3 tells us that the federal government, Dangote, NNPC meet, explore solution to refinery and crude crisis. We're still waiting for the outcome of that meeting. I don't say anything. Let's wait till the outcome of that meeting. Page 3 is where you find that information. On page 6, we have planned protest. NLC, NAN, others insist that government must address hunger and hardship. And on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper, we have GDP ranking. It's been 9 years of retrogression. Obi laments. I actually read this. Our GDP has been nothing to write home about over the last couple of years. It's been a steady decline. So you can actually read it. Yeah, you can read it so you're familiar with the figures over the last 9 years, even before this present administration, and how we have very slowly and unfortunately now very rapidly continue to decline. It's on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. It's not a lot of stories here. Somebody decided to buy out the front page. Wow. And then we have for the Vanguard newspaper on page 5, we have electricity. Why system collapse will not end soon. This is according to an investigation. And the writers here, 10 factors fueling Nigeria's frequency system collapse. Frequency variation, lack of SCADA, others. Power Up Nigeria says, hold TCN responsible for system collapse. Experts. Businesses pay for services they do not enjoy, says LCCR. No economy can make progress without stable power, says CPPE. And that's pretty much all of the report that we have on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Trends in the papers for this morning has come to an end. We're due for a commercial break, but we'll be back by 8:40 to have conversations with you. We've spoken about quite a number of stories. You've heard analysis. You've heard the perspective of our analyst Fouad Said. And we want to hear, do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have fresh opinions that you'd like us to analyze? Well, join us at 8:40 a.m. for all of that conversation. My name is Sage Babalola. Please stick around. The conversation continues right after this commercial break.